Good morning and welcome to Rising. Today we have a very special show that's perfectly balanced between light and dark as an eclipse is going to be underway soon. Isn't that exciting, Briahna?
I am a tingle. I am one of those people who I'm not really into the kind of the spiritual realm. I don't do tarot or things like that, but I like the idea.
But you love your zodiac
I like
signs.
astrology. I like the idea of it all. So the idea that there are cosmic things in realignment. I got a text this morning from a family member that said, do you feel something special is happening in the air today, Briahna? So we have some eclipse news for you for those that also want to take advantage of this relatively rare phenomenon. Here's what you need to know and how you can see it in your area, whatever your neck of the woods may be. Now, just as some basic science for those who might have forgotten, a solar eclipse is when the moon crosses in front of the path of the sun, casting its shadow, the moon shadow, on the earth. This will be the first total solar eclipse visible from North America since 2017. You can see on the map there some of the major cities that will be able to see a total eclipse of the sun. 32 million Americans, including residents of cities like San Antonio, Dallas, Little Rock, Indianapolis, Cleveland, and Buffalo will see the full solar eclipse, while folks in cities like Chicago, Boston, New York, and Philadelphia will get about a 90% eclipse. Now, keep in mind that you will need protective eyewear to view a partial eclipse. The eclipse is only safe to look at directly during a full eclipse, the period of time known as a totality, when the moon fully covers the sun. If you're lucky enough to see a full eclipse, here's what you can expect. It will feel like twilight is falling in the middle of the day. The temperature may drop as much as 15 degrees. Birds and animals will go silent all around us. And eventually, at the moment of totality, the sun's corona will create a kind of a halo around the moon, and that should last for about 4 minutes.
Then we must all pray to the gods to restore light, and if we make enough sacrifices of people, perhaps, it will come back. About 200,000 visitors are expected in downtown Cleveland to witness the eclipse, which will start at 1:59 and peak at 3:15 there. Authorities in Missouri and Illinois are issuing safety warnings for traffic. For some schools in New York will be closed for the eclipse, citing in some cases heavy traffic expected around dismissal time. Now, Rupa Subramanya wrote an article in the Free Press accusing school districts of promoting safetyism, while Fox News' Carol Markowitz analogized the school closures to COVID-era shutdowns. Schools now closing for any reasons for this excessive safetyism. That's a note also sounded by my colleague at Reason, Lenore Skenazy, who lamented that schools in the Toronto area were shutting down specifically so that students would not be outside during the eclipse. Here, where we are in Washington, D.C., the moon will begin its journey around 2 p.m. and cover about 89% of the sun at 3:20 p.m.
I'm looking forward to it. I got to confess, so my family lives in Cleveland as of about 2 years ago. So they've been prepping for this for a long time. I got an excited call from my mother this morning. I'm frankly really envious that I am not there. If I had thought about it in advance, I think it would have been worth it, frankly, to take a day off to see something like this, because it really is, it's not once in a lifetime that eclipses happen, but it is relatively rare that they're happening in North America. And for me, happening in a place where I can stay for free without having to deal with the hordes that have descended upon cities in the direct path of the eclipse. There's a big Guardians game happening today in Cleveland, and apparently parking is as high as $80 because of so many people who are like timing going to downtown Cleveland to see the eclipse and to see the game and to see the eclipse from the game. It's going to have ended just before the game started. And it really does seem like a kind of a special moment, precisely because it's uniting so many Americans at one time when we're so divided to look up at the sky and witness an event that is so much bigger than all of us.
So I do remember the last eclipse because I was with my other place of employment, my colleagues at Reason, and ventured onto a roof that I did not have permission to be on to see it. And then I took, of course, I had to post pictures to Instagram of us experiencing the eclipse.
And then I got in big trouble.
And then I got in big trouble. So we'll see if that happens again.
That was a full eclipse or a partial?
That was the
eclipse?
2017 one.
Okay.
Right?
That's but that one, I was in New York at the time, and I only got the partial eclipse. Right, so I remember watching it as well.
I think we got a partial.
Yeah, I was still at the law firm, and I remember coming outside. I had not prepared. I did not have the special glasses. I had also been made fearful of stories of people selling fake glasses on Amazon and how can you vet that they're real or not. So instead, I followed the online advice you can create these kind of little pinholes in a piece of paper, basically a hole punch a piece of paper, and look at the shadow that it casts on the ground. Mm-hmm. I also realized when I was doing that if you stand under a tree, the kind of dappled sunlight between the leaves also started to form into a crescent as the moon went across it. I don't understand the science of why dappled sunlight would suddenly become crescent moon shaped, but it was extraordinary to witness, even though it wasn't this full total eclipse event. Now, people who they call them, I think, eclipse hunters. There was a podcast about this at the New York Times on the Daily this morning.
You are fired up about this.
I love this. Are you kidding me? This guy, he saw his first total eclipse as like a teenager and started chasing them all around the world, doing like thousands of miles on car trips across the United States to see them. And then when he got older and more resourced, flying to India and everywhere else to see them. And sometimes you pay thousands of dollars to fly across the world to see an eclipse, and the weather just doesn't cooperate. So this one does seem like we're getting pretty good clarity conditions, at very least in the Midwest, which is what I've been checking with my family.
I have some friends going to Texas to see it, and I think their weather conditions are supposed to be not very good.
That's such a bummer, but that's, I think, what makes this whole thing so exciting. Because even though it's not like they happen once in a millennia or anything like that, but having everything lined up, it happening in your country, with good weather conditions, your ability to access where it is in your country, since we live in such a huge country, all of those things aligning, and being able to witness and experience that, this is what you were alluding to, in historical moments have made people think that the world was ending, that God was swallowing the sun, and they needed to beat drums and make loud noises to chase it off.
I was going to bring up my favorite two depictions of the eclipses in fiction. One is exactly that, the movie Apocalypto. I think I've mentioned it before. You have not seen it. It's a great movie, Apocalypto, which takes place in, I think it's actually like almost hybridization of the Aztec and the Maya, but they're doing human sacrifice as the eclipse happens, and then the people panic, but they, this is a Mel Gibson film, but it's really good, really talented filmmaker, I just have to say. It is clear the high priest and the leader gave each other this look, and they clearly knew the eclipse was about to happen, and they understand the science of it, and they know it's going to end shortly, and they're clearly using this as like a ploy to see, like, oh look, we have saved the sun.
Right.
They clearly know it was going to end anyway. It's so cool. It's a great movie. And then the other one, of course, from my favorite, Avatar: The Last Airbender, where they invade the Fire Nation on the day of Black Sun, the day of the eclipse, because firebenders lose their powers. They get their powers from the sun, so their powers are briefly halted during the eclipse. So that's in the original series, Avatar: The Last Airbender, not blue people, not that movie is of no consequence.
Not Shape of Water,
not that,
whatever it's
not
called.
that thing.
Yeah, I love those examples. Also from real life, notably before Nat Turner's famous slave rebellion, a total eclipse was considered a harbinger of like, this was the time for us to rebel and claim our freedom. So lots of interesting energy in the air for a lot of reasons. I'm interested to see if any of you guys plan to watch it. Let us know down in the comments, and do stick around. We have a lot more rising for you coming up next.